Good morning, and thank you for keeping it Citizen Television. Like always, we really appreciate your time and company, waking up with us and allowing us to kickstart your morning with great conversations and information shaping what is happening in Kenya and beyond borders. We are on top of issues for you. And karibu sana. Once again, it is Wednesday, and health and lifestyle begins right now on a very crucial month that you're all focusing on the issue of mental health. But like I always encourage you on this platform, that these are months that we just use to escalate conversations around these issues, be it diseases, be it whatever condition we are talking about. But it is something we should sustain throughout the year. So this month of May, it's the Mental Health Awareness Month. But of course, like you all agree with me, it is a conversation that we should be sustaining each and every day because of the level and the burden of this particular matter in our society. And I have with me in studio somebody who has been in this space for, should I say, almost 5 decades, and has done a lot that has gone into not just forming the national policy, but also in terms of just helping those who've worn this shoe and understand what it is to be able to battle with a mental health issue. And I'm talking about Dr. Frank Njenga. He's a renowned psychiatrist. He's also the chairman of the Chiromo Hospital Group, and he has done a lot in terms of publishing several scientific papers and books, and something is coming up also. Karibu sana daktari.
Thank you.
We are so glad to have you with us this morning.
Thank you very much.
All right. Should I add that you have also once served in the task force that was the National Task Force on Mental Health?
Yes, indeed.
In 2019.
Absolutely.
Advising the president on issues mental health. That was the then President Uhuru Kenyatta. And we're going to borrow a lot from that particular role that you played just to look at the national landscape when it comes to how we have addressed mental health in our country. But once again, karibu.
Thank you very much. And it's a privilege to be here on a day such as this one.
All right. So it's good to always begin by just, getting your thoughts around, as we mark this month of awareness, what are the significant issues that stand out for you that you find pressing? It could be globally, or even us as a country, if you bring it closer home, that you find very pressing, that before we mark the end of this month, as we create awareness, as we go around just doing a lot of activities around mental health, what are those things that concern you most as an expert in this field?
I don't know if it's about becoming an old man and just being old.
Yeah.
I'd like to start on a note of optimism.
All right.
In a land where we moan and groan about the weather, about the politics, about a lot of things, we have some good news from mental health. It's not doom and gloom. And the good news is that over the last, say, 10 or 15 years, the levels of awareness around mental health issues has grown so fast and in such a big way that the stigma that characterized all issues of mental health is reducing steadily in this country. Let me explain that. Prior, say 25 or 30 years ago, anybody who even imagined that they might go and see a mental health expert, a psychologist or a psychiatrist, was shunned and told, oh, don't go, don't go. How are you a buyer? Like now, people call, people come, and they go to any mental health expert and say, I think I have depression, I'm not sure. It could be an anxiety state. Help me to understand my condition. I saw somebody on TV, I saw somebody posting on Twitter, and it sounds like I have the same condition. So that stigma is not finished, but it's coming down in a way that allows me to say, we have good news coming from mental health in this country.
If you just look at what you've just said, in terms of the caseload and the burden, and in terms of awareness and openness, where do you think we have made strides most? Because is it that the mental health issues are decreasing, or just that people are becoming more open about it?
Good question.
Yeah.
There are two answers from where I sit. One is wananchi watukufu. Yes? we are a well-educated, sophisticated, forward-looking country. Don't let anybody tell you that we are not making progress as wananchi wa tukufu. There are areas where we are doing well. The second one, which again, I don't know if it's just the way I woke up today, is government. Since, as you say, since 2019, when then President Uhuru Kenyatta in Narok declared that we have a problem called mental health in this country, and he appointed a task force, which I was privileged to chair. Government policy has come into place. Government programs and action plans are actually in place. Programs by government, national government, to look into strategies of reducing suicide in this country are in place and are actually ongoing. Part of the reason that perhaps you don't know about these things is because there's so much noise and scatter around that the good things that the Ministry of Health, it's under the Directorate of Mental Health under Dr. Mercy Karanja, and other people in the it's actually working, and it's working at the national level. I challenge you to go to Mathare Hospital, or a place I trained at. A plane that was, prior to 2019 and years behind, was a dilapidated, not so clean plane. It's a clean, dignified institution that we are becoming proud of because deliberate action is being taken by Kenyans to fight the stigma of mental health by doing things like cleaning up and giving dignity to the place where we... So I have good news. All right.
Let me take you back to 2019 because I think for me, I found that moment pivotal. I know you've been in this one longer than myself, obviously.
But no longer than you've been alive, don't worry.
Most importantly, yes, even in the field of mental health, yes, you are actually one of the people, I would say, are trailblazers in that. You have seen what the government had done before 2019 yes, in the space of mental health until that declaration by the then President Uhuru Kenyatta, who spoke as a father, a husband, 100%. And a son. Yeah, he came down to our level.
I didn't see the tears, but I think they were there.
Yes. Somewhere there.
Yes,
so
yes,
just to signify that he was so passionate about this
100%.
Then.
Yes.
For somebody who has been in this space and has seen the challenges that we have had as a country in terms of breaking even when it comes to addressing mental health, that moment for you, how would you describe it and how it has bolstered? How far has it been picked up, or it was just a reactive moment and then after COVID, after 2019, we dropped the ball?
No, we didn't drop the ball. We did not drop the ball. As I say, government works in the sense that my greatest fear when I was appointed to chair that task force is that we would do this report, and we worked hard, and I had an excellent team, that I would present the report to government, and then it will be put together with all the other reports that have been put, whatever reports are put, to gather dust. I was surprised. When we presented it to Honorable Mutahi Kagwe, then Minister for Health, the champion of COVID and everything else, I was surprised by two things. One, the man had read the report completely. On the day of presentation, he had already read it. Secondly, he made a promise that this report will be implemented by this government in full. We worked as the task force. Sorry, I then got the appointment as presidential advisor on mental health, meaning I had full and complete access to all government offices, presidential advisor. Yeah. And it actually, it worked, and it is continuing to work. What am I saying? I am saying, given the commitment at the top and clarity of thought as we saw on the 1st of June 2019, government can and does work.
So how do we translate that to tangible success in terms of the burden and the caseload. And Dr. you can give me numbers so that at least if I compare before 2019 and now, as we mark this month of awareness, we can say that these are the numbers. This is what, this is where we are when it comes to mental health. So that it's not just beautiful documents and beautiful reports and task forces and boards that are formed, but we are not seeing tangible results in terms of what is happening within the community.
I'm beginning to feel like I'm speaking for government, and I will not speak for government.
But you cannot.
No. I will speak I just say as is.
Okay.
We had 15 recommendations in the task force report. As of now, I think we have implemented completely 11 of those 15 recommendations. Let me give you one or two examples. We recommended, for example, that Parliament pushes through the Amendment Act, the Mental Health Act, in an amended form, which gives people with mental health needs care in a dignified environment, which gives them human rights that are commensurate or which are in tandem with the 2010 Constitution. That happened within months. Secondly, we recommended that Mathare Hospital becomes a semi-autonomous government agency, a SAGA, with its own board independent of the Ministry of Health. That was done, and that board is chaired by my friend, Professor Lukoye Atwoli, and is doing a commendable job. Thirdly, we recommended that something be done about Section 226 of the Penal Code, which decriminalized becoming ill and attempting suicide. This last January, the High Court declared, through the effort of the Kenya Psychiatric Association, Human Rights Commission, and other agencies, that now suicide is no longer a crime and is going to be removed out of... So those are tangible things that are going on. We recommended, and I was happy to see the person who was here from the church, we recommended that spiritual leaders, imams, priests, and other people be made aware of what mental health conditions look like. And you'll be happy to hear that, again, a member of that task force, Dr. Lynette Ongeri from Kemri, has developed, together with other people, a curriculum that is going to be used for the education of all faith leaders in this country, and I hope beyond. We recommended, do you want me to go on? A curriculum for teachers, because 75% of all mental health conditions can be diagnosed prior to the age of 25. Meaning that if teachers and parents are able to diagnose mental health conditions in the classroom, they can do something about it. By the time I retired from presidential advisor job, we had started working on a curriculum to be embedded in teacher training schools so that teachers can recognize. I'll say this and I'll say it again. A country is like an oil tanker. It can't turn like a bicycle. Yes? So it turns ever so slowly, but turning, in my view, it is.
It is.
Yes.
I want you to look at what you had done and what you had assessed across the country and give me something that touched on communities and individuals on the ground, because we are talking about stigma and lack of knowledge and diagnosed mental health issues. People who are walking and they don't know that they have mental health issues. That is where the biggest problem is.
Good.
So what is it that was done in that space?
You've asked me for numbers. Here comes numbers. Some years back, we as the mental health community went to what was then Maseno district. Yes. Okay. Because we like Maseno. Okay. And we went and looked at the people of that district, not people who are in the hospital, but people who are tending to their goats, looking after their farms and fishing or whatever people Maseno do, as a representative group of all Kenyans. People who had not complained of any condition, even coughing, 11% of them had mental health conditions that we could recognize. And yet they are walking around. What does that mean?
Did they recognize?
No.
Okay.
They thought they were fine.
Yeah.
But when you talk to them as a researcher, we found that 11% of them either had depression, or anxiety, or didn't sleep well, or whatever it was. Meaning that people watching us, yes, 11% of you have a mental health need.
And they don't know.
But you don't know. Yeah. Number one point. Number two, we know from many other studies from all over the world that before you die, yes, when you have a family of 5 people, 1 out of 5 people in your family, in your lifetime, will develop a mental health need.
1 out of 5.
Let me tell you, it's just that they don't know.
That's so close.
It is. So I don't know how many you are in you, but if you're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
yeah.
When you're in number 3, count 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th one. When you're in church, where people sit in the front row, yes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Even when you go to Rome, where the cardinals are, as long as they're normal people, 1, 2, 3, the 5th one, even president. This thing is real, it's recognizable, but the good news is that if it's caught early, it is treatable.
You know, in a forum, I once heard you talk about people thinking mental health is psychosis. It's sort of like that blanket, you know, covering of it. When you say mental health, mental issue, the reason why the 11% didn't know they have an issue is because of what they think mental health is.
Yeah.
So just to demystify the understanding that people have, that communities and families have of mental health, and what vis-a-vis what you as experts call it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've praised government. Let me talk about the media and Royal Media Services Group.
Yeah.
Because you have been at the forefront of educating people through programs like this one, through things you do at Tinoro and other places like that. Those are the activities. It's not one thing that one person will do or one institution will do. It is the combined and cumulative effort of all actors and players that include media houses such as this one. As I said earlier, people used to think that psychosis is the same thing as mental health condition. It's not. It's a small part. Very important part, but it's a small one. The ones where we have the most impact are what are called common mental disorders. The common mental disorders far outweigh in numbers and in significance those people who have psychotic illnesses and have to be hospitalized, for example. But the majority are working in factories, in farms, are teachers, are mothers, are your neighbors, but they are working, let's say, for example, at 60% of their capacity. If, for example, you have a teacher who has a depressive illness or an alcohol problem or an anxiety disorder, she's teaching. He's teaching. But he's yawning. Yawning in the sense he didn't sleep well, and therefore is not an effective teacher. When you have a mother who is depressed, for example, and these are studies from Kilifi, here, this is the same our country here. A depressed mother is less, she's a mother, but she's less effective as a mother. She's not feeding her child as well. If a child falls ill, she doesn't look after the child well. These were studies around diarrheal diseases and depressed mothers. They forget or omit to put mosquito nets around their little babies so the children get malaria more often. If you have a husband who is depressed, anakuwa mkali. Anakuja nyumbani, as he coming through the door there, anaanza kupiga kelele, oh, bona huyu mtoto makamasi, bona wewe mama hii chakula yako haijaiva. You know, irritability. So,
Daktari, you're saying kukuwa mkali is a mental health issue, or it could...
It could be a mental health condition, or it can be the evidence that that man is very weak.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
two extremes.
Check that.
Yes, it's true.
Yeah.
Lakini sio kali sana kwangu.
Okay, I like how you're describing the ordinary things people do, thinking it's normal, it's kawaida way of dealing with life, but it could be a mental health issue that is being projected in a different way. So I want you to personalize it and talk to somebody who's watching you right now, because like you said, 5 is very close. I mean, it could be even in this room.
Yeah, wait. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, indeed, yes.
It could.
Yeah,
so talk to that person who's watching you in terms of some of the telltale signs before we even look at the main mental health illnesses that we are having.
Okay.
Telltale signs of just knowing something is off.
Okay.
This is not kawaida.
Yeah,
this could be a mental health issue.
Okay, I'll go quickly. We start with the child.
Yeah.
Because people think children don't get mental health conditions. They do. So, and because there are teachers with children this morning, perhaps on break, whatever it is. A child who has been doing well in class, say up to standard 4, 5, 6, whatever it is, and suddenly starts to deteriorate in their class performance, that is a sign that something is wrong. So deteriorating class performance is one common sign in the classroom setting. Number 2, a child in school who becomes disruptive. That is something to think about. Still with children, yes, a very common condition called ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Some studies say it's 7% of the children have the condition. Some say up to 15%. So we'll take a number in between. 10% of the children will have variable extent of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. How does a child with this condition look like? Some of them will be too playful and playing pranks. I don't know how to say this one. In our school, many, many years ago, there was a boys who used to say, "Tafadhali mwalimu, nipe ruhusa ya kwenda choo." Because he's bored in the classroom, and every 10 minutes, they want to go out. They want to go out, yes, just, and he's just dreaming, around. So a disruptive child, think about the possibility. Then there are those people, girls in particular, who have the same condition, the inattentive type, where the girl is just sitting there. She doesn't disrupt. Nyamaza tu, lakini her mind yuko wapi? Israel. Na Pakistan, na pande ingine.
They're aloof. They're not here.
And that's why I'm saying, unless they stopped, government was to develop curricula that would give tips to teachers. Actually, there's a book I did some years ago called What is Wrong with This Child? Tips for parents and teachers that details now the mental health conditions of children. Let's come to adolescents. I hope you have time.
Yeah.
Good. All right.
We should have the whole day.
I know. So adolescents also have the same ADHD condition. But because they are older, their problems are different from those children in primary school. These ones are now, wanaanza kufanya ukora. They are still very hyperactive. They are still playing pranks at their teachers. Wanamwaga maji. These are the kids who go and pour water in the beds of their...
So it's not a normal behavior.
No. It's disruptive behavior.
It's not kids being kids.
No,
that's how we dismiss it.
No.
Utu ni mtoto.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, I will forgive parents and teachers for not knowing the difference.
Yeah.
Because the way an adolescent is created, so to speak, is to push boundaries and to be disruptive. But there are things that go beyond that. And for example, not all, but many of the children who burn schools do it for fun, do it to create excitement. So that is another group now of adolescents. Na ndio wanaanza kutumia nini? Pombe. Ukiona mtoto mzuri kutoka good family, 17 years old, 16 years old, ameanza kuvuta bangi, anaanza kutumia pombe. Allow yourself as a parent or a teacher to ask, is it possible this child has a depressive illness, an anxiety disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder? As an explanation, usimchape huyo mtoto.
But we don't have grace. We are very punitive in our approach as a society. Mtoto ameanza kuvuta sigara, ameanza kunywa pombe. The first thing you think about,
ni tumchape.
Ameharibika. You know,
ameharibika.
Let's punish them.
Na hata wengine nasema wewe kama mama yako. But as I say, the tanker is turning. Yes, and there are more and more parents who come to us as mental health workers to say, who you Otieno, he was not like this. He has not now. He's now started to anatumia bangi, usiku halali, anatata pombe anatumia. This is not my son. Doctor, what is wrong with it? And then you sit quietly with the boy or the girl, unamzungumzia, you pick out the fact that this particular child has a depressive illness. Hata nakuonyesha, hata mama nilikuwa nimejikata hapa, hata mama nilikuwa najisikia kama nitajitoa uhai, hata sasa shule sina marafiki, najisikia mwenye upweke, hali ya taharuki. The children, give them your ear. Before you chapa that child, give them an ear, and you will be a modern parent with that one. Adults,
especially in this toxicity, high cost of living.
Okay.
There is a lot happening.
There's a lot happening.
So we have people walking around with mental issues now.
So their mothers, women, have their own issues. Mambo ya, perinatal issues, the challenges of having babies and so on. They have got their own mental health needs. Menopause have their own issues. Men, on the other hand, adult men, don't like saying anything about themselves and about how they feel. So they go to the bar to drink pombe. Yeah? A lot of people that your brothers, your sisters, your brothers particularly, ambao wamekuwa walevi, when they're taken to mental health experts, it actually turns out they have a mental health condition in addition to the alcohol problem.
So the alcoholism is not the problem?
I'm telling you, 50 years since I started practicing this, if there is one big lesson I have learned, is that when your brother becomes mlevi, when your husband becomes mlevi, think that there is something behind the ulevi. There is almost every single time there is something behind this new behavior of being mlevi. That, if I don't say anything else today, he's mlevi, yes, but look behind that ulevi, and that a mental health expert will help you with.
All right. Doctor, I know there is a lot that you can explore in that area, but at what point does one need to now take the extra step to even look for a psychologist, a psychiatrist, or an expert? Tuna feeling in kama there's, the moment you go there, it's like people, because of the stigma, people start thinking that you're losing your mind, you're no longer in control of. So kuna hiyo woga. But at what point what draws the line between what you can handle and what you need to take to the next level?
Only two things, by the way. Very simple ones. The first one, if it's causing you distress, you the person. So if, for example, you're not sleeping well at night, if you're feeling very sad all the time, if you are feeling that you're not yourself, tell your mother, tell your husband, tell your father or mother, mimi sijisikii vizuri. Tafadhali, find me help with a doctor. That's one. The second one, and I told you it's very easy, is when your functioning is impaired. If you're a student, huwezi kusoma, huwezi kupita mtihani, you're having problem in school. If you're a teacher, you cannot teach. If you're a presenter like yourself, you can't wake up in the morning to come and do this program with us. If you are a doctor, because even doctors get into these problems, unamwona mgonjwa na kwenda mimi sitaki like that. So if you're not functioning at whatever role, go and seek help, because impairment of your normal role as a citizen is an indication that there is something the matter.
You talked about alcoholism, and I would add there drugs and other things that people do as a, let me call them coping mechanism, because
indeed.
you said hiyo sio shida.
No.
There's something
No.
behind it.
No.
But then kuna hizi zingine, there are others that people feel it's lifestyle. It's not a problem, like gambling. Yeah. I mean, people think, how can that be a problem? Yeah?
Let me tell you.
Is it also a sign of mental health? Does it have
Yes.
like a correlation?
Yes. You see, there's a spectrum between normal risk-taking behavior. All business people take risks. Yes? When you wake up in the morning and you get into a matatu, it's a risk you're taking because you don't know what's going to happen. Yes? When you decide to cross the road, you don't know what's going to happen. I mean, you could find a banana peel, fall down, crack your head, end up in intensive care. Life is measured risks. The International Classification of Diseases finds gambling, there's a pathological type of gambling, yes, that is a disease. Oh, and actually, let me tell you, when I say this country has moved, it has moved. There are people who are coming to hospital, anagonga, anakwambia, doctor, I have a gambling problem.
So it's a disease.
It is a
lifestyle.
Gambling is not a disease. Gambling, to gamble is not a disease, but there are people who gamble and have a disease that is recognized by doctors and that can be treated. Yes. It's just like, by way of example, drinking alcohol doesn't make you an alcoholic. Actually, the truth is, 85 to 90% of people who drink alcohol have no problem. It's not a problem. It's not a disease. 10 to 15% have problematic alcohol drinking or problematic alcohol use. Not everybody is obese, but we all eat. So there's nothing wrong with food. It's just that for a number of people, food becomes a problem. The job of a doctor is to tell the difference between normal usage of alcohol, normal activities around gambling, from pathological gambling disorder. It's a relatively small but serious and a growing problem in this country.
Yeah. Challenge is you never know how quick you can transition from what is normal and what is now being termed as...
I will now call you Mwalimu. No, absolutely, because you've got it 100%.
You never know.
Exactly. When does one cross from this side to the other side? Yes.
That's the trickiest part.
Yes.
But I know you're also so involved in terms of treatment and addressing, those who have knocked your doors to come and seek help. And I want to understand from the patterns you're seeing in terms of the mental health disorders, which ones are the most compelling, most common, that people are coming to you most with, if you look at it today?
Okay. Mambo ni mawili. There are common conditions, of which there are very, very, very many. And then there are the very serious conditions that demand immediate action by the doctor. Let's start with these ones because they're easier. If you have somebody with an acute episode, say of schizophrenia or a bipolar mood disorder in a manic state, you don't need a doctor to tell you this person has a need of a mental health need and need to go to a doctor's immediate care, and you will take them to the doctor and the doctor will give them tablets, injections, whatever. So those ones are obvious and they are severe and they are not as common as the other side of mental health needs. And these are the ones that we were describing earlier on. Things like depression. Depressive illnesses are actually extremely common. And they affect from children to old people. And because they creep on you so gently and like a thief in the night, yes, you only very, very, very gradually cease to function and perform in whatever role that you have been performing.
So it's a slow...
It eats away ever so...
Doesn't happen like once.
If you're a high school boy, you start in Form 1 as an A student in a very, very good school. By second or third term, you're a B student. By the end of Form 1, you're a C student. When you reach... So that decline, in the office, you as a supervisor will see this girl, when we started last year, her work was neat, was clean, was on time. These days, ni kama hata nywele, hata nguo, hata ile makeup, the girls used to...
Something has changed.
You will tell this girl has changed. You will not necessarily know what it is, but HR will start writing show cause letters. Why is it that you came late? Why is it that you're so untidy? Why is it that you're shouting at people at reception? Those are the very subtle things. Anxiety state, also very common. Mtu anashikwa na hali ya taharuki ya wasiwasi. Even getting into a matatu, you try to get into public transport, unajisikia now. Problems with sleep, very serious. And all these conditions sometimes present with difficulties in sleep. And remember, sleep is very... Let me issue a warning, please. Yes? If you didn't sleep last night, don't go to a pharmacist to buy a sleeping pill. If you do, you're buying a passport into addictions. As I said earlier... So
you'll be hooked on sleeping pills to sleep?
If you can't sleep, go and ask an expert, a psychologist, a psychiatrist, or anybody else, why is it that I am not sleeping at night? Behind the lack of sleep at night lies a mental health need. Whether it's account of bereavement, you're still missing your mother who died in December, whether it's a matter of a depressive illness, the way I have described it. So behind lack of sleep, ask an expert, why is it, Mr. Expert, I am not able to sleep? Just like I said, if you find your husband or your brother is drinking too much, ask an expert, why is this brother of mine who used to be very, very good, why is it that he's drinking too much? So insomnia, lack of sleep, don't medicate yourself. Because some people medicate themselves by going to buy on-the-counter drugs, yes? Others medicate themselves with pombe. Others medicate themselves with bangi, another thing. Wrong route to take.
You're not addressing the problem?
You are not addressing
something
exactly.
Else. Now that you're talking about solutions, due to public interest, there's somebody who still wants us to talk about gambling kidogo and how to treat it. It's a big issue. You even had the other day there was a development on discussions around gambling and activities around gambling, especially in the media space. But then, how do you treat gambling? Because this is becoming like the second cancer that we're dealing with in families today.
The first of all is what we are doing here. Awareness that it is, in some people, a medical condition. All right? Gambling is a serious condition. The thing about gambling is that a lot of people who, not a lot, some people go into gambling in an attempt to cure another problem. So, for example, if you find that you have made bad investment decisions and you have taken loans that you're not able to service, and you feel that by gambling you could be able to... So actually, chanzo chake are the bad decisions that you made earlier on. So that is one possibility, and we see those ones in adults and in younger people. People trying to cure bad decisions that themselves have as a basis. So there is what we call comorbidity, a co-occurrence, occurring together of gambling disorder together with other medical conditions. For other people, it's a behavioral matter. And people get hooked to alcohol. They get hooked to gambling. They get hooked to pornography. They get hooked to sex. I mean, sex addiction is a real and growing problem. Yeah. So there are many different types of addictions. And this particular gambling thing falls into those behavioral conditions that are the type of addictions.
All right. So you need to deal with them same as you deal with the...
First of all, you need to understand what is driving this addiction.
All right.
Just like we said, what is driving the alcohol addiction? What is driving the pornography addiction? What is driving the addiction to this gambling behavior? Go to the kitovu and find out exactly where it's coming from.
Let's talk about cost implications of treating, you know, let me say the general mental health issues. How are we doing with that regard? I mean, that's why many people are walking wanajikaza, wako na issues, but wanajua when I go to see Dr. Njenga or any other specialist out there, it will come with a pinch on my pocket. So wacha tu nijikaze, hii issue, I'll pass it. But then cost implication, and must you stay in the hospital? How long? And and does insurance cover issues of mental health these days?
Good. Okay, let me start with the last question.
Yeah.
All serious insurance companies follow the law. Yes, all of them follow the law. And the law in this country is very clear. Since 1989, if you offer health insurance, you cannot exclude mental health. That is the law since 1989. So if there's any insurance company that discriminates against people with mental health needs, they are breaking the law. I am not in the law profession, I'm not a policeman, but I know the law in this particular very narrow field. All right? But the good news is that virtually all insurance companies, the big ones anyway, all of them cover mental health conditions to variable degrees, but they all do. Employers also do. And this is part of the overall work that we have been talking about. Employers are very proactive. We run very effective wellness programs that are demand-driven. It's the employers who come now to the Chiromo Hospital go to say, help us with our wellness programs so that we can promote health and we can prevent illness. Which brings me now to your first question. How much does it cost to get care for mental health conditions? It really depends. If you come early, we call it stage 1, taking the example from cancer, treatments are brief, they are effective, and they are not expensive. If you come at the equivalent of stage 4, when you are losing your job, when your marriage is breaking down, when the employer has sacked you, yes, when you come late, then it's very expensive because it's costly in terms of money, it's costly in terms of relationships, and it takes much longer and it costs more. So modern practices are about coming here to Citizen, telling people, prevent and promote. Early detection, early detection, early detection. So to ask the question, how much does it cost? The answer is, it depends on whether you have come in stage 1 or stage 4. Early stages, you don't have to go into hospital. Sometimes you don't even need medication. You get somebody to give you therapy of talking, because mental health needs exist on a huge spectrum. And it really depends on what point you went to your doctor. And this conversation we're having today, and everything we are going to do this month of May, in terms of Mental Health Awareness Month, is all about promotion and early detection. If you don't pass any other message, let's talk about those things that promote good mental health and those ones that enable early detection so that you get care early when it's not too expensive.
All right. Let's talk about suicide, because we're almost running out of time. And how we are doing in terms of even addressing it. There was a big conversation about decriminalizing suicide, and you mentioned it a bit when you were talking about the progress that we have made and the key highlights of what your recommendations were. Just to emphasize on what has been achieved with that regard, that today somebody who is attempting suicide, how will they be treated under the current context and the legal framework?
Okay. Two pieces of good news, I think. One is Dr. Lynette Ongeri, who was a member of the Mental Health Task Force, completed a PhD, I think last year or the year before, on suicide. Meaning that now there is no shortage of information around the subject of suicide and the factors that are around suicide in this country. Previously, we've complained, oh, we don't know, oh, we have no statistics, oh, we have no data, oh, all the data we have is from America, from... No. Our own Kenyan scientists have made an in-depth study of this matter of suicide. So
that is domesticated to our country?
100%. Right. It's a PhD thesis. I think it's available wherever these things are available. And it's Kenya, and we know these things now. So that's one piece of good news. Right. We have information that is locally generated by local Kenyans. The other piece we talked about already. The High Court has declared Section 226 to be against our constitution.
Of the Penal Code.
So now, even if a policeman has nothing else to do and he catches you attempting suicide and takes you to a magistrate or whatever it is, he's wasting his time because, I mean, it's not a crime anymore effectively as per the declaration of the High Court. So those are the two little bits of good news. The bad news is that people are still dying, as the Bible says, for lack of knowledge, for want of knowledge. Yes? So I believe that this month of May, as we are moving towards a healthier, mentally healthier nation, these activities for this month include information about the early detection, particularly of depression. A lot of people who die by suicide, people don't commit suicide. People commit crimes. Yeah. People commit adultery, people commit bad things, but they die by suicide. That's very important language there. So we are carrying out this step. This is what this month is about. Although we have special events also around suicide prevention. We have a very government, again, we go back to government. The government has a very clear policy on suicide prevention developed by our government. So we have activities driven by NGOs, government, and specialists.
All right. But then I always like your argument of why suicide shouldn't be treated as a crime. And I'd like you to say that before we wind up. Why has this debate been so close to your heart? Why is it not a crime from an expert point of view?
The reason for it is actually as simple as it is clear.
Yeah.
Yes? People who die by suicide, 80–90% of them have a mental health need. So the reason I am so clear about this matter is because it is my fault as a mental health teacher. Anytime a person dies, I have failed as a teacher. I have failed to teach people that people attempt suicide, people die by suicide because they have a mental health need. So it's personal to me as an old teacher that people are still dying by suicide and people are still being thought as though they are bad people when they die by suicide. So the reason all of us mental health experts are so clear on why suicide is not a criminal act is because it's an illness. People die because they are ill. And we as doctors took an oath, Hippocratic oath and other oaths that we took to make sure that people don't suffer and die. So the promotion of information around suicide prevention is my personal duty and is the duty of all the mental health workers everywhere.
Yeah. Before we wind up, I want to talk about your autobiography and what's coming up. But if somebody was watching you, Daktari, right now, and they feel like they've reached the edge.
Yes.
They feel like they've reached the edge. And probably there could be part of the data, the unfortunate data on people who die by suicide if something is not done. What would you tell that person? Just very quickly before I give you a chance to talk about you.
Don't wait and reach the edge.
Yeah.
Reach to Chiromo Hospital Group. Google Chiromo Hospital Group. And there are, I think, 60 or 70 different doctors who admit in that hospital. Pick one of the doctors, and the Chiromo Hospital Group is there. But don't wait until you're on the edge. It's better to go to the doctor and he tells you, you're actually fine, nothing to worry about, than to wait until you have reached stage 4 of your need. The website, Chioma Hospital Group, is there. It's easy to reach, and you get help there.
All right. So when we began, I said, is it almost 50 years?
Yes.
Almost 5 decades you have been in this.
Yes.
And this is beautifully captured in something that I want to talk about, your autobiography and how your journey has been so far. And, what is it that you find inspiring about, what...
I could talk about this autobiography for a whole day, but I will be brief. Yeah. Actually, I've been a doctor for 50 years plus now. I've been a psychiatrist 45 years plus. So I have seen I've eaten a bit of salt on this earth.
A lot.
A bit of salt, yes. So writing an autobiography is a very complicated and complex business because you really, first of all, must have a message. It's taken me a long time to write about myself because I've always felt I have no story to tell. I was born in this city of Nairobi, at King George VI Hospital, now Kenyatta National Hospital.
Oh, okay.
I went to a little school, now called Mbagathi Road Primary School, 2 minutes from where I was growing up. I went to high school just down the road at, it was called Delamere School, now it's Upper Hill School. I went to University of Nairobi on a campus back to where I was brought up as a little boy. My life was on 1 square mile. So I've always felt, what story do I have? Until my granddaughter the other day started asking me, Granddad, where were you born? What did you grow up? What is this thing called Mau Mau? What is this thing about Jomo Kenyatta? Who is Jaramogi Oginga Odinga? Who is this Chief Waruhio? Who is Chief Koinange? I looked for one body of information that tells us where Ofafa Jericho came from, where Lumumba is, what Pumwani is, and what is Ngara. Hey, I realized I am a custodian of the history of Nairobi. Yes, because that's where I grew up. I know about the rivers, I know about the estates, I know about the governors who were there, I know about all the politicians, Kina Kibaki, Kina Tomboya. I know them. I saw them growing up. I know JM and the way he was assassinated. So my autobiography is about my life as I grew up, as an adolescent, as a young adult, and the way Nairobi and Kenya have evolved through independence, post-independence, all the corrupt deals that I have. So it's
through your lenses.
It's through only my lenses. Some people think it's clever, others think it's a bure kabisa.
But is it out yet?
Tomorrow.
Oh, it's
tomorrow. Look out for it tomorrow.
All right.
Tomorrow. It's coming out tomorrow.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Frank Njenga, even for thinking to go that extra mile to share with us that part of your life. Looking forward to seeing it out and even interacting with it. So Dr. Frank Njenga is a psychiatrist. He is the chairman of Chiromo Hospital Group and was just discussing a lot around the Mental Health Awareness Month. Thank you so much, Dr. once again for creating time. And I know that you have learned a thing or two about how you can better take care of yourself. Prevention is what he really insists, and the whole month is going to be dedicated to just, sending that message of prevention and even just increasing awareness on this particular subject matter. Thank you so much for watching Health and Lifestyle today. Have a lovely day ahead and keep watching Citizen Television. There's still a lot that we are tracking and following for you today.